We have a leadership crisis. Our leaders are not rising to the cause. So how do we build the next generation of leaders? What skills do they need? The science, of course, everything has to be evidence-based, but how do we bring the leadership skills?
Well, welcome everybody to The Sea Has Many Voices, and I am so excited to have my friend and someone I really admire, Dr. Marga Gual Soler. I love her name. Every great thing that ever happened started with a conversation. That's one of the premises of our show. Mm-hmm. And Marga, having you here helping us talk about international conversations and the purity and the power of the science in the international conversation. I'd like to hear a little bit more about that, please.
Yeah.
So what is the climate for you right now in your specificity of your science in your community right now? How is that? Share that, please.
Right. So I'm not a practicing scientist anymore.
Right. It's okay. You got your chops.
Yeah.
You got a PhD, publications, the whole
It's
works,
actually an advantage, I think, right now for this type of work, because I can see a very holistic picture of all of the sciences that are needed to tackle this problem. Because I think one of the challenges we have is that traditionally scientists are very siloed, and they are very, by the nature of sciences, you have to specialize.
Yeah.
And you can be a molecular biologist, or you can be oceanographer, or you could be a health scientist or an astronomer. But it is harder and harder as you specialize to build these interdisciplinary collaborations that are actually needed for the real problem, because the climate crisis is not going to be solved by the climate scientist alone, or the oceanographer alone, or the economist alone. It is a coalition that needs to be built. And a lot of those frameworks for building the coalition are actually in the multilateral system. And so I think science has been disconnected from the global politics for a very long time. And we have some success stories. The Antarctic Treaty was the first. I would say the first symbol of science diplomacy, because it was in the Cold War, as Greg mentioned, where everything was against the odds of collaborating. Science could rise above that antagonism.
By the way, have we talked about that treaty on our show?
No.
Can you explain? Because for listeners, that is the type of stuff.
It's a great, it's good.
Yes.
That really starts. Listen, it's about progress, right?
Exactly.
And if we just talk about doom, and I'm not saying us, but if people are only talking about doom and gloom,
right.
We are here, especially The Sea Has Many Voices, is about solutions, right?
Right.
It's about uplifting and giving solutions. So will you talk a little bit of that treaty and sort of what it did?
It's a very hopeful story. I think we need optimism, right? And so Antarctica, it was a continent that was, it was the last continent that had not been colonized. It was a continent that didn't have indigenous people, so nobody lived there, and nobody had been born there. There were no communities that came from the actual continent. And so in 1958, after exploration and of course the conquest of Antarctica, by the way, a very masculine approach to the white last continent. I
want to come back to the gender stuff too.
It has multiple symbolisms, right? Multiple layers of that.